Canada has a huge problem. We are awash in counterfeit coins. Every single one of these Toonies that you see here, Canadian $2 coins, isn't real. These are counterfeits. Most of these are the infamous camel toe. Some came out of the Montreal Mint. But in today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the strangest counterfeit perhaps of all time, and that is the Canada Z dollar, featuring of all things, a walrus. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, this is James and you're watching my channel, Cateral Hunter. So counterfeiting coins is not new, and it's not just limited to Canada. It happens everywhere in the world, and it has been happening for hundreds or potentially thousands of years. In Canada, we've had a pretty significant resurgence of counterfeiting in coins. It's not actually very common in Canada, to be honest. Well, at least not until recently. I've pulled up Brent W.J. Mackey's website, cameltoetoonies.ca. I've mentioned this resource a lot in my videos where I've dealt with and talked about counterfeit Toonies. He has collated news articles on counterfeits, and he has documented and cataloged varieties in all the different counterfeits that have been issued in Canada. I'm going to pull up the Montreal Mint website because this is where things started back in 2006. So back in September of 2006, Police and Revenue Canada attended a business, not because they were looking for counterfeit coins, but because they were executing a search warrant for GST evasion, so tax evasion. When they entered the building, they found all sorts of coin-making equipment, as well as fake coins that were ready for circulation. So arrests were made, people got in trouble, but not before a number of these coins made it out into circulation. And I've actually found a few of them. Here are a couple of examples of them. And these look like legitimate Toonies. The details are pretty soft. They're dated 2004 and 2005. And the details are pretty consistent with the original. And I think they would pass off as real Toonies for a lot of people. They just look like they're pretty worn. And unsurprisingly, because we somewhat lack creativity, because this coin-making operation or factory was discovered in a suburb of Montreal, it was dubbed the Montreal Mint. Of course, there's no real Montreal Mint. The Royal Canadian Mint operates facilities in Winnipeg and in Ottawa. So this would have been an off-the-books venture, unofficial, by a criminal ring. Now, of course, in recent years, we have actually been flooded with counterfeits, and these are the infamous camel toe Toonies. And I've dealt with these on my channel. I've done several videos. Every time I hunt Toonies, I find them. They're everywhere. So I'm not going to go into detail about those. They're, again, also pretty faithful reproductions of a $2 coin. There are some differences and variations like that camel toe. The detail's just not quite right. We know there's issues with the numbers and the lettering. Just the design isn't 100%, but most people can't tell the difference. So in that regard, they're pretty passable as real Toonies. And in the recent past, we've seen even more counterfeits come to light. This one here on Brent's website, the Double Canada Toonies, say Canada $Canada rather than saying Canada $2. One might argue this isn't actually a counterfeit. It could be some kind of a novelty metal or something like that. Who knows? But they've been found circulating, so somebody's trying to pass them off. So really, it's a counterfeit. And others have been found offered for sale on international websites like AliExpress. There was a case of a listing where they were selling them in bulk for 5 cents a piece and were purportedly being imported. And I think somebody has done some jail time there too. So let's dive into this Z-dollared Toonie. Not a lot is known about these particular counterfeit Toonies known as the Z-dollared Toonie. The only news article you can really find is this one from the CBC here, and it talks about how they were found at a store in Hawkesbury, Ontario. Somebody came into the store, purchased something with some of these fake Toonies, and after they left, it was discovered that they were fake. And if you watch my channel, you know that with the camel toe Toonies, the vast majority of people, whether it's bank tellers or just people on the street, actually have no idea that they are passing and using counterfeit Toonies. But it didn't take them very long to discover that this one was fake, and that is because the devices, the design of this, have some very peculiar inconsistencies with an actual $2 coin. I'm going to pull the coin, an image of the coin up against a real one, and we're going to compare a real Toonie to this Z-dollared Toonie. So on the left-hand side here, we have a real, legitimate Canadian $2 coin, affectionately known as the Toonie. And on the right-hand side, we have the Z-dollared counterfeit. We'll start with the similarities here, and that is that they're both bimetallic coins with a bronze-colored center core and a silver or nickel-colored outer ring. That might be where the similarities stop. So you'll see that they both say Canada at the top, but on the bottom of the real coin it says $2. On this counterfeit, it doesn't say $2. It says Z, that's how we say Z here in Canada, Z-dollared. Instead of having an S at the end of the word dollars, there's a D. And that's a really peculiar difference for sure. Somebody made a conscious decision, I would expect, to do that. Z-dollared. In the middle, instead of having the polar bear that you see on the real $2 coin, we have what appears to be either a sea lion or a walrus, one or the other. It's hard to tell because the detail isn't quite right. And I am not a expert in aquatic mammals, so we'll just have to say that it is a walrus. I think that's what people are saying, but it's peculiar nonetheless. It is certainly not a polar bear. What's really odd, of course, is that typically counterfeiters are trying to pass off their coins as the real deal. So in the case of, for instance, the camel toe Toonies, it's a pretty faithful reproduction of a Canadian $2 coin. It has a polar bear. Most of the details are almost identical. Most consumers, most people who handle change, even bank tellers, actually can't tell the difference. So it might take a bit of a trained eye or a collector or someone who handles a lot of change to spot the differences. In this case, it's apparent that whoever created this fake coin wasn't really trying to pass this off, at least not too much, as the real thing. At first glance, that might look like a real Toonie, but anybody taking a closer look would see that this is not the real deal. We'll flip this over and we'll look at the obverse because there are some differences on this side as well. We'll start, I think, with the date because this is maybe the strangest thing of all. The date on here says 1990, and the $2 coin wasn't actually even produced until 1996, so fully 6 years after this is dated. Now, this wasn't produced in 1990, of course, because the Toonie really didn't exist. This is dated that way, but probably on purpose. And it's a strange thing for sure, because anyone who knows anything about when the Toonies were available produced would know that there is no 1990 dated Toonie. Again, unlike the Montreal Mint Toonies in 2006, all of those had the years 2004 and 2005 on them. They were years that were actually produced. Same thing with the camel toe Toonies. They're 2005, 2006, 7, 10. So 2002 as well. So they're bearing dates that would line up with the real coins. If somebody was taking any kind of look at them, it might appear real. The other thing is that on the camel toe Toonies and the Montreal Mint Toonies, they're really trying to make all of the devices look as close as they can to the real deal. And that's clearly not what's happening here. Before we look at the legend, let's look at the effigy or the bust. The real Toonie will feature a couple of different portraits of the Queen, but on this coin, we have what appears to be an old man. It is certainly not the Queen. Again, maybe at first glance, it's going to look like the bus, it's facing the right direction. But the curious details on this are things that make it look like a much older person. You can see they're very jowly. There's lines in the cheek and the neck. They seem to be very intentional design decisions, but certainly not the Queen. And speaking of the Queen, the real coin says Elizabeth II. It's got the Roman numeral for 2. The fake one says Elizabeth II perhaps, but there's a dash between the 2 Roman numeral 1s, and that isn't faithful to the real coin. It's got a maple leaf, and it actually doesn't look too bad. But where the real coin says DG Regina, which is short for Di Gratia Regina, Queen by the Grace of God, this says PG Regina for no explicable reason. Again, it looks close enough at first glance, but it's not a D, it is a P. So all of this begs the question, why? Why would somebody go out of their way to make a counterfeit $2 coin, presumably in really small quantities? Not a lot of these have been found. In fact, they seem to be exceptionally rare, when they couldn't even really pass muster as a real $2 coin. So they're not a great counterfeit if that was really the purpose. So what was it? Is it some form of political protest? Anti-royalist protest? Is it a novelty item? Is it a prank or a joke? Is it something that just got in the wrong person's hands who tried to spend it, but it was never really intended to pass as a real $2 coin? What would possess somebody to make this coin? I'd love to get your thoughts and opinions. To my knowledge, no one has ever been held responsible or caught. The article indicates that the police were looking into CCTV footage to see if they could spot or identify the person who passed the coin initially, but I don't think that turned into anything. So we're left with a crazy mystery. Why did somebody make the Z-dollared coin? What was its purpose? How many of them are out there? If you've found one or seen one in person, I'm holding one in my hand right now, and it is not mine. Let me know if you've seen one or found one. I'd love to hear your story about how you got it, how you noticed that it was fake. Have you seen anything like this in your life outside of Canadian coinage? It is just bizarre. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of a closer look at one of the strangest counterfeit coins I have ever seen, the 1990 Z-dollared Toonie. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, CAD Roll Hunter, go ahead and do that. Hit the button. You won't regret it. I promise you, you'll find out when all of my new videos are coming out. I have new videos coming out all the time. They're often about coin roll hunting, coin collecting, sometimes about counterfeit coins and other interesting numismatic topics. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again next time. The sponsors of today's video are Lighthouse Canada and the Charlton Press. Lighthouse Canada is the leading supplier of high-quality numismatic supplies in Canada, and the Charlton Press is the leading publisher of coin and paper money catalogs and price guides for Canadian collectors. Go check out their online stores today and use the exclusive discount code CRH20 for 20% off all your purchases.